All right, welcome back into another episode of Jake's Takes. I am your host, Jake Masucci, and today I got on my guy, Conor Benson. He is in the building, and I am super excited for this episode. Conor, how are you doing, man?
Dude, I'm doing great, man. I'm happy to be on this. I'm looking forward to it for a long time.
I know. It's football season, man. And who better to bring on than my guy, Conor Benson? We played 1 year of football together. You were my quarterback. I was maybe the best scout team receiver anybody's ever seen. I was on fire. I was so good. But I mean, I'm so excited to get you on, like your football IQ and stuff, and how we watch games together, and we'll talk about it, dude. The football season's been crazy so far. What have been your thoughts so far? Just looking at
Dude,
it, it's crazy.
so nuts, so nuts. It literally is from like teams blowing out like you would never guess to close games. It's been crazy this year. It's been unbelievable, and I love it.
I know. Football season's always like the best time, and I mean, like this is the first year I've been covering it on a podcast, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like there's so much to cover. I wish I could come out with an episode every single day. Like this is so much fun, but we just had, I think, the best week of college football we've had in a long time. I mean, this was the most matchups that were between ranked opponents since 2015, which is just unbelievable. So I had to get somebody on to talk about it with. So why not go with my guy, Conor Benson? He was actually at the Alabama game, which we'll get into in a little bit. But I do want to start out with the matchup in South Bend, Ohio State versus Notre Dame. And this was an unbelievable game. Ohio State ended up winning on a walk-off touchdown, 17-14 in this game. But Conor, talk to me a little bit about what you saw in this game between Ohio State and Notre Dame.
Dude, I mean, it was a nuts game. I think Sam Hartman guy, he's the man. He is the man. And I really thought he was gonna pull it out because if he pulled out that game, he's a Heisman contender all day, all day.
100%.
And
Well,
it was a nuts complete. I think it was a complete defensive game all around. Like I thought Sam played well, and I'm not a big fan of Ohio State's quarterback. It's McCord, isn't it?
yeah,
Right,
Kyle McCord. Yeah.
Kyle McCord. Yeah, I don't know. Ryan Day has got a good program, so I think he's really helping that. But I don't know, man. It was a nuts game.
Yeah.
Nuts.
I mean, to add on, like this game was crazy. Ohio State just barely sneaking out. And this was like a weird game because to start, nobody could score and people were moving the ball. Like you saw Marvin Harrison have a couple big plays. Thank God he's okay. He had an injury earlier in the game. Thank God he's all right. Emeka Ibuka was making some good plays, and the running backs were actually doing well. Travion Henderson ended with 104 yards rushing. Audric Estime had 70 yards rushing for Notre Dame. Like both these running backs are pretty good. So people were moving the ball, but if you look at the game, like especially in the first half, it was fourth downs. Like they just could not convert fourth
Yeah.
downs. And it's really weird because like I'm like you, I'm very high on Sam Hartman. I think he's one of the better quarterbacks in college football right now. But like with McCord, man, I mean, he can make some plays, but then there's other times where he doesn't make plays. And there's a lot of those quarterbacks where like they're just inconsistent and you don't like love it. But with McCord, I don't know. It's just we're used to Ohio State having the guy, and I just don't know if he's that guy.
It's dude, their receiving core is just ridiculous. I
Oh
mean,
my
that's
gosh,
Ohio
yeah.
State. They're literally receiver you from like the past decade. They
Hmm.
just produce so many good receivers, and if you're surrounded as a quarterback, if you're surrounded by really good athletes that if once the ball's in their hand, they're gonna do something special with it. I mean, like he has that around him, and his offensive line
Hmm.
is very good.
Yeah, and I mean Ohio State's defense, dude. Like they didn't get enough credit. I was looking at it preseason, and I still think this, but they're clearly the third best in the Big Ten. I think Michigan's and Penn State's defenses are better than Ohio State's defense, but this defense deserves some credit. Their secondary has proven every question wrong. They'd had a great game against Notre Dame here. They changed it up with some blitz concepts that made it really difficult for Sam Hartman, especially in that first half. The second quarter, he really struggled to get his receivers open. And, Notre Dame made some adjustments in the fourth quarter where they started coming back, scoring some touchdowns. It was looking good. And then Ohio State, man, like that last drive, they kind of just ran it down their throats with Henderson. And I don't know, like, I like Marcus Freeman overall, but I don't know how you have 10 guys on the field for the last 2 plays of the game. Like, that made no sense to me how that can happen. And then Travion Henderson is able to just sneak in the end zone on the last play. I just think that's a little embarrassing. That's rough.
A horrible. I can't. It's unacceptable. It should not happen at that level and that big of a game. That should never happen.
Mm-hmm.
You have to hold your coach accountable, and you have to hold your players accountable for being on the field at the right time, especially in that game time decision.
Yeah, I mean, terrible way to lose that game, especially like that's a home game. It's primed for you, like under the lights. Everybody's watching that game, and it's just tough. And looking at their schedule now, their college game day next week, they're going to Durham in Duke, and Duke is a good football team. I don't think I've ever said those words in my life.
I don't think anyone else has either.
Exactly.
That Clemson game was like out of nowhere. I mean, they're going to be an up and coming team. Like it always happens. Everyone goes up, everyone comes down. I really think Clemson, Sweeney's dynasty's over.
Yeah. I mean, and we'll get into the Clemson game a little bit, but like this Duke team's going to give Notre Dame some trouble. And then Notre Dame also has to go to Clemson, which is still a tough game, and they also got USC. Don't forget about USC. They're coming to Notre Dame also. So they got a tough schedule here. And I thought this was a very winnable game. I thought they'd win this game, and I was kind of shocked it didn't happen, but it ended up being a great game. And I can't complain when there's a great game,
Oh, no, you never can. I mean, it also proves that like Notre Dame, they have a hard schedule. I mean, they're gonna play better in hard situations. I know I do not like Ohio State at all, but they don't have like the greatest schedule. Like,
yeah.
Like,
I mean,
all about like strength of schedules and everything like that. It's just not there.
Yeah. I mean, they do have Penn State and Michigan going into later this year.
Yeah,
which is conference play, which will end up being good. But do you think that they're good enough to be able to compete with a Michigan or a Penn State? They got Penn State at home, and then they got at Michigan. If you had to pick between those 3 teams right now, where would you rank them, and who do you think is going to end up getting out of the Big Ten?
It's so hard to say. I really like Penn State. Allen is doing a great job there.
Yeah.
And I really like him.
Aller. Yep.
He's been doing a great job. Michigan, I mean, the easy schedule. Like they don't play anyone. I mean, don't play anyone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're only blowing teams out by 30 points, and they're not anything teams. Like it's so hard to say, but I really think Penn State's gonna come out on top. That's a hot.
I like it. I like it.
I like Penn State a lot.
You and Jonah with your hot takes going with Penn State. I like it. They took care of business against Iowa, winning 31-0. And we can touch on it a little bit, but I mean, I talked about it earlier on the podcast. I love Drew Aller's composure in the pocket. Like he just has so much control over the line of scrimmage. And I feel like as a college quarterback, especially in your first year starting, that's probably the most difficult thing to do is have that much control and that much poise in the pocket. I mean, you were a quarterback. Talk to me a little bit about like just being that quarterback and being the guy that everybody's looking to. It's so important to have that poise,
Yeah, no, 100%. And the environment he's in, that Penn State environment is nuts. And I mean, even playing, like we went to a small school, like it was still like, I was so like, just the energy coming down. It's just like, it's that adrenaline rush that like, you just like, you have, but you can't show anyone because you have to keep that composure. You can't, it's like you're playing cards. You cannot have any sort of like, you're not phased to anything. What I always learned, like my coach always taught me is like, dude, it's like one play at a time. after the play's gone, next play. Like you cannot even interceptions, incomplete passes. It's next play, next play, next play.
Yeah, and I mean, Aller does a great job of that. I mean, he'll have his ups and downs. He's a young quarterback. I think he's going to end up being really good. And against Iowa, like Iowa had no chance. Iowa's offense is just struggling. It's not there. And Penn State's looking better and better. And I'm very scared as a Michigan fan for that game. That's going to be a very exciting game. And I'm pumped for when it's going to come. That's going to be fun. The Big Ten is very fun. Those three teams are very good. And Ohio State's proving to be, they're not the Ohio State we know, but they're going to be one of those top teams in the end. They always are. So I'm excited for that. Let's move into Florida State and Clemson just a little bit before we get to the SEC. And this was an unbelievable game. Florida State sneaking out 31-24 in overtime. Talk to me a little bit about what you saw in this game.
I mean, obviously, Clemson was on top for a while, and Travis did not have his first half was not great. They came out, they had a touchdown, I think, like towards the end of the first half that really put them on top. I think it was like 14-14. It came back at halftime. Yep. Yeah, so that definitely pushed them over the edge. In Clemson, too, that's a hard place to play at. That's a really hard place to play at. So. I mean, going back to that composure, I just don't think he definitely was phased in the beginning. And I mean, he came out. I really like that Florida State team too. I really like them.
Yeah, I mean, they got a lot of athletes, and the thing that impressed me the most about this game was Florida State's defensive line. Like Clemson has some really good running backs. I love Will Shipley. I think he's one of the best running backs in football. And they also got, I'm not going to say his name right, but it's like Phil Maffei or something. I don't know. I'm not going to, that name is completely wrong, but that's what I do. Shipley ended up with only 67 yards rushing, and their other running back only 69 yards rushing. So Florida State just controlled the ground game. They were all over them. And that's really difficult because it put a lot of pressure on Klubnik. And Klubnik was very inconsistent throughout this whole game. He had some plays where he was making great throws down the field and was doing awesome. And then there's that other play where Florida State runs an exotic blitz at him and he doesn't see it coming at all. And it's a scoop and score for a touchdown in the third quarter. That was a huge play. And, it's just been that way with Klubnik throughout the whole year. And I think, Garrett Riley's brought in a great system and they get a lot of yards, but the thing is they turn the ball over so much and it's so difficult to come back from those turnovers. It's killer, man. It's tough.
Yeah, he struggles. He gets phased under pressure so much. He just it's like that spaz in your head that he just needs to get the ball out. He can't if you need to take a sack, you take a sack. It's next play. You know what I mean? Turning the ball over, it's a game changer. That's going to win and lose a season for sure.
Yeah. I mean, talk to me a little bit about Jordan Travis and what you're seeing from him. He had a great game in this one, 289, 2 touchdowns. Why are you so high on this Florida State team? Is it just the poise that Travis is showing? Keon Coleman. Okay.
He's nuts. He's nuts, dude. He's just a crazy athlete.
Yeah, he's unbelievable. He's unbelievable. And we kind of knew that from the Michigan State days, from when he was there. Some of the athleticism he pulls off is just incredible. In this game, he had 5 receptions, 86 yards, 2 touchdowns. And his touchdown in overtime was crazy. That's such a hard catch to make on one-on-one. He's unbelievable, man.
He reminds me of a DK, honestly. I really like a DK.
I see that.
I really like it.
Yeah,
he got that big, strong, tall build. He's just a beast, man. It's hard to guard him.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be one of those top picks in the draft when it's his time. He's really just an incredible athlete, and with Florida State, They got a solid defense. They've won the games they're supposed to win so far. The thing is that's probably going to help them too is the ACC is a lot better than we expected. You got a Duke team that they're going to play at near the end of October, which is going to be a very interesting game. They got that one at home. They also got Miami at home, which is going to be very interesting. Miami's pretty good. And then the last game of the season, they go to the Swamp. So that one will be good. The Swamp's always a tough place to play. We saw Tennessee struggle with that last week. So, It's definitely going to be interesting for Florida State, but they got the two juggernauts out of the way in Clemson and LSU, and that's just important. A win's a win, and they struggled with Boston College last week, but they got it done. Win's a win, and they're doing what they got to do, and I'm excited for them. I wasn't high on them, but they're proving me wrong with every step of the way.
Yeah,
So,
Jordan Travis really he was a walk on, which is just it makes it so much better, man. It's like
mhm.
he came in after the injury last season and balled out. He was balling out, and then this season's just going uphill, just going
Yeah,
up. It's like it's great to see it, and especially for that Florida State team, like they used to be so good back with Dion and everything like that,
yep.
and they went downhill. But man, I think they're going to be an up and coming team.
Yeah, I mean they had the Jameis Winston years, and that's really about it. But
Yeah.
It's so cool to see Travis. He's breaking like all the Florida State records, and
Mhm.
like that's the cool part about it. And he's just proven every step of the way, like you can put it all on my shoulders, and I'm gonna get it done. And he's getting it done, which is very impressive. 100%. All right, let's move into the SEC because that's what we're here to talk about. We got to discuss the Alabama game. They had a big game this week at home against Ole Miss. And this was an exciting game. So you were at the game. Talk to me about the environment, what you saw from the team, just everything about the game.
It's going back to last week with Jalen not starting, and it just, I mean, Saban. Everyone was saying Saban need to prove something, tell him that he wanted to see that leadership role. He didn't need to prove that. He just wanted to. He told the backup. He told Ty that he was going to play. He also told Buckner that he was going to play. They didn't do anything. They didn't do
Mm-hmm.
anything. It's that leadership role, but the environment, man, the environment is nuts, especially that big of a game against Ole Miss. It's nuts. I mean, just a crazy, crazy place to be. Bryant Denny's a huge place, especially that big of a game. It's nuts. It's nuts.
Yeah, I mean, this game definitely, I'm sure the games that were circled on the schedule were this game. I mean, LSU is coming to your place too this year. And you had
See,
Texas earlier. I mean, just an insane year for home games, which I think it's absolutely huge this year because this is the most questions you've had about your football team in a long time. And it's just the truth. But the one thing that you shouldn't question about Alabama is their defense because your defense put on a show yesterday. It was unbelievable. They were all over Jackson Dart, making it uncomfortable for him, making it difficult. And I mean, I didn't even think Dart had a bad game. He made one bad throw and that deep ball.
yeah,
I don't
Arnold picked
remember
it
who was
off.
to. Yeah, where they was picked. But other than that, like Dart didn't even play that bad. It was just the D line was pressuring him every step of the way, which made it so difficult for him.
Yeah, I know. Our defense is really carrying us through this year, and I mean, it's our defense is not Kool-Aid at corner. He's the
Yep.
best corner in the whole entire college football. He's ridiculous. You got Arnold at back at safety. He's not. It's just all around like just an all around great defense, and that's just really what's carrying us through these last couple games.
Yeah, I mean, it was a big win here. It was ended up being 24-10. And Ole Miss like had shown throughout the whole year that they had a very like tough offense to deal with, and you guys kind of like just torched them, which is very good for like what you have coming up. The next game definitely on the schedule to look at is definitely going to be probably a home game against TCU or not TCU, sorry, Tennessee. But then you have LSU the week after. So like it'll definitely be interesting. And with SEC play, you also have at Texas A&M, which
Yeah.
Texas A&M like they're up and down. Like I think that's very winnable. But I think before we start like looking ahead and seeing if they can win every game, we got to discuss the quarterbacks because the quarterbacks have been the story throughout the whole year. Like Milrow's been up and down. You decided to go a different direction against USF to try to find some quarterbacks, see if you have anything else. Talk to me a little bit about what you've seen from the quarterback situation.
Yeah, like we Alabama's always had a great quarterback. It's we had Bryce Young, Heisman winner, should have been two-time Heisman winner. I'm not going to get into that, but I mean, we Mac Jones, Jalen Hurts, Tua, like just it's ridiculous. And they're all like balling out in the NFL right now.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, it's just that it's that one missing piece that we don't have. We have great receivers. We have a great offensive line.
Yeah.
Our running back situation's up in the air a little bit. We have a good true freshman Harris coming in that will come in a little bit. But man, that quarterback situation is a struggle. He's struggling throwing it. Running, no question. No
Mm-hmm.
question. But it's that throwing, and you can't find it either way because Ty and Buckner's just out of the question. He's horrible. He is so bad. He played so bad against USF. It was like ridiculous.
Yeah.
It was like 3-0 at halftime or something like that. And it was then we put Ty in. Ty goes down, scores a little bit. I don't know if you saw that video of Jalen coming out of the field, just going
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Ty. It's that leadership that he has. That's the difference between those three quarterbacks. Is that Jalen has the speed and he also has that leadership role, and that's all that Nick Saban cares about in that terms for who can get that starting position, man.
Yeah. I mean, for me, looking at the quarterbacks, it's like, yeah, you talk about the past where you had Bryce Young, Mac Jones, and all those guys. I mean, the past was AJ McCarron, where he was the game manager, like rely on the run, rely on the O line, all that. And this is what that team's going to have to be. But the thing is your O line's not as good as it normally is. Like it's been good, but it hasn't been great. Milrose, a lot of the time, has had to get the ball off quick. And there's been other times where Milrow holds the ball too long and it leads to a sack. So it's on the offensive line and it's not on the offensive line because Milrow, I think, is a very good quarterback and has plays where he makes some unbelievable reads. And then there's other times where his picks looks like the worst picks you've ever seen. You know, he had the one pick in the red zone where he just threw it right to the guy this game.
It was
And
horrible. It was a smash concept, and it was just like an easy read. I texted my coach about it. I was like, that was a ridiculous read. He literally had the hitch down there, and he throws a corner to two defenders where Jermaine Burton doesn't have a chance. So,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's that up and down. He doesn't have that killer instinct that he can go down every single drive and do what he knows best.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like it's like we talked about with the quarterback is so much poise and so much like you got to have it every single play. And it's like Milrow doesn't have it every single play. He likes to trust his running, or if he doesn't have his first read, he'll hold it too long and it makes it difficult for the O line. I mean, you see it a lot with these college quarterbacks where they hold the ball a little long. I mean, I even think Shadir Sanders holds the ball a little long, you know, and I think he's going to end up being one of the best prospects. It's just the truth. But sometimes these guys just have a problem with it. And I think Milrow's one of those guys. But I think overall, he's a lot better than your other quarterbacks. We saw from Buckner and we saw from Simpson. Simpson's just not ready. He's young. He'll be okay. I think he's going to end up probably being your starter in the future. And then with Buckner, he just doesn't have it anymore. You know, he got yeah, I mean, he got injured at Notre Dame, and you know, like the fact that Alabama accepted him to come in was more Tommy Rees, and like Tommy Rees is like, okay, he knows my offense, let's try to give him another chance. And I feel bad. It's just not working. You know, it's the truth. It sucks. It is what it is. He's just not going to be in your future plans. But with Milrow, it's like he's a great athlete. I think he's going to end up being okay. And you got a great offense. Like Jace McClellan, man, is a great running back. I love him. He ended up with 105 yards in this game. It really took over the fourth quarter, which was huge for you guys. And then I love Jerome Burton. I think he's an unbelievable receiver. I think he's one of the more impressive receivers that I've seen. Washington has some great receivers that I really like. Marvin Harrison is Marvin Harrison, so I think he's in a tier of his own. But Jerome Burton, man, is just I really like him a lot.
Yeah, no, I do think like I was saying, it's just we have that one piece we're missing, and it's just we're surrounded by great receivers. We have a great tight end, great running back. Offensive line is up and down, but it's because our offensive line is so young. I think we have two freshmen starting on our offensive line. I mean, yeah, they're young, so we got to get them more and developed and have like a better role and have like I don't even know whatever. But no, yeah, it's just that missing piece, man. I mean, Jermaine Burton is looking ridiculous. He's great deep ball threat. Great deep ball threat. I mean, the past Texas game, I think he had that huge play to bring us back up in the lead. And then and then Jalen threw him another deep ball, I think beginning the second quarter or something like that. And it
Yep.
was just a deep ball. He's taking that hit. So that's another thing. What I am noticing a lot more is that he is taking that as hit as he's throwing, which is a huge step in a quarterback's progression throughout the play.
Yeah, which is huge. So, if you're looking at the rest of the year as an Alabama fan, you focus on the SEC. You know, there's the SEC is not where it is normally. I think the Pac-12 has kind of passed it for the deepest conference right now, just because you guys don't have. I mean, you have Georgia because Georgia's unbelievable. You know, and you got to put them number one right now, even though there's been some games where they haven't been impressive. But if you're looking at the SEC as a whole, is there any team besides Georgia that you're nervous about that you think is pretty good and being overlooked or anything like that?
I mean, I can't say because I think Alabama has they have the potential to make the playoffs and they have the potential to win a national championship. And I know they can because we have Saban. Like, there's no questions about that. But I mean, Tennessee, they have not been looking good at all. Like they just don't have the receiving core is not great. Milton's playing. He's playing okay. He's having a fair season.
There's ups and downs with Milton.
Yeah. There's ups and downs, and you can't put in the true freshman Nico. That kid was ridiculous in high school. You can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not going to work out. You want someone with that game experience and everything like that. But I mean, LSU, they're all going to be tough games because of how big of rivals we are. But I mean, it's all I see is just Georgia, and like I don't want to I'm knocking on wood right now, but I just the only team I do see that like has a potential is Georgia, and that's throughout all college football.
Okay. I mean, if I'm looking at the SEC right now, I was very high on LSU going into the year. I really liked how they brought in so much defense, and Jaden Daniels, I think, is a great quarterback. They struggled with Arkansas this week, which Arkansas, I think, is underrated because KJ Jefferson can have some games where he's just incredible and you can't stop him. The fact that they're winning these games is helping me with them. I think they're going to be very tricky for Alabama, and like defensively, sometimes you can struggle with some running quarterbacks and some running concepts, which might help them in ways of moving the ball against your defense. But we'll see with Milroe because Milroe's going to have a lot of time to develop throughout these few games before that game. So I am interested to see if he can develop a little more because I don't think LSU's defense is like physically imposing or anything compared to like a Texas or anything crazy because Texas actually really impressed me physically. So I think overall, like I agree with you thinking that that besides in the SEC, like nobody's gonna touch them really. But I do think there are some games that might be tricky, like at Texas A&M, tough environment. You know, we'll see. They have the players. They just haven't put it together. I mean, we saw with the Miami loss. And then a team that I really like that you might be shocked about is Kentucky. I really like Kentucky. I think they're dangerous. They brought back their offensive coordinator, Liam Cohen. He was gone for a while. They brought him back this year. When the Will Levis offense worked, it was because Liam Cohen was in charge of the offense. So he's back this year. And, you know, I really like Devin Leary. I think he's good. He hasn't played great this year so far, but he was really good at North Carolina State. And the fact of the matter is Kentucky's winning games. They just killed Vandy yesterday. So, and again, that's Vandy, but still, like, I think Kentucky's a solid team. You play at Kentucky. If Kentucky wins games before that, that'll be tricky, you know? So looking at it that way, the SEC's, even though we're down on them, I still think it's a stacked conference overall. And clearly, to me, the second best conference right now. I don't think the Big Ten's deep enough to compete with it. But you know, I'm excited overall because I think Alabama's going to have a test every single week, and it's definitely going to be interesting looking at it.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I figured you were going to say Kentucky, but it's going to be super interesting because they have some tough games coming up. They're playing Florida next week.
Yep.
And they're playing Georgia the following week.
Yeah.
And skip another week, they play Tennessee. So
Yeah.
They have a tough couple like games ahead of them, and that's really gonna to see what they are. I mean, they're Florida's a good team. I would say Florida's a good team.
I do too. Yeah, I think so
But
too.
I don't know. They're not ranked yet. They're not ranked, so I'm hesitant on it, but I'm also
I don't know if I'm a Graham Mertz believer. I mean, we saw him a lot in Wisconsin, and
yeah.
he just throws short balls, just dink and dunk, the whole time. And it's like I just don't know if I can trust that. I think if you play at the Swamp, then it's just difficult because the fans there are unbelievable. But if Florida's got a great running attack too with Trevor Etienne, and their other running backs really good too. But like looking at the SEC overall, I'm not as high on Tennessee like you. Um, I'm just looking at it and it's like Texas A&M I'm not as high on because they haven't put the talent together. Auburn's not good. Peyton Thorne's not the answer. And
He showed that
Mississippi
at Michigan State. He showed that at Michigan State.
yeah, he showed that at Michigan State. And then Mississippi State's just not there. It's kind of Will Rogers or bust. And, it's tough for him. And KJ Jefferson, same way at Arkansas. So again, the SEC is still deep, but I like what you're saying about Kentucky. We're going to see if they're for real in these next few weeks. And it'll definitely be interesting. I think the Texas A&M you got to circle. And then Tennessee, you got to circle. LSU, you got to circle. And then Kentucky, we'll see, you know. But if you had to pick the SEC right now, if Bama can get through, like, do you think Bama's going to end up winning that LSU and be able to get through and play Georgia?
I think we're gonna win out the rest of the season, and I think
Okay.
it's gonna be us and Georgia in the SEC championship. And this is going to be another hot take. I am not a fan of Georgia at all. I do
Okay.
not think they do not have that. They don't have Beck is not that guy. I
Okay.
do not believe. I do
Okay.
not like him. I don't think he's that guy. Their defense incredible. Their tight end. Oh my god, he
Yeah,
is
Brock Bowers is
ridiculous.
so good.
Oh, he's probably the top five receiver
Yeah.
in all college. Like he's ridiculous. I mean, you got to get your the ball to the playmakers. So I mean, that's what Beck's doing. He's looking for him every single play.
Hmm.
But I think they're missing that piece that we are missing too. And I think
Yeah.
that's going to be a dogfight.
Yeah.
Be a big game.
I would be excited to see that game. So I mean, again, with Alabama and Michigan State, my last two guests, Aaron picked Michigan State all the way through. So I asked these questions. Okay. I asked these questions to make it relevant and like a good analysis. How does Alabama beat Georgia? Like what keys do they have to do in order to win that game?
And, dude, it's going to be a defensive game. They both have amazing defenses. It's going to be it has to be an offensive game. They have to get the ball down the field. And
Hmm.
it's going to be in the dirt. No one's going to throw the ball. It's going to be heavy running on both sides. And
Yeah.
that you just got to overcome it. It's at the end of the day, it's going to be who wins the trenches, who wins it.
Okay. I like it. I like it. All right. Well, we're going to go to a little break and then we'll talk about some of the other games from week 4. And then I'm going to ask Connor who he thinks will be in the playoff. So stay tuned.
Hello, hello. This is Giovanni Mosheri. You may have heard me a couple times on Jake's Takes. I am the sports media director of Oakland University's campus radio station, WXOU, and I've been the host for about 2 years of a weekly sports show called The Jomo Show, where we cover all of Oakland University athletics, including a weekly update on scores and highlights, as well as interviews with athletes or those otherwise involved in athletics. You can listen to The Jomo Show live on WXOU Thursdays at 6, or you can tune in to me afterwards on Spotify. It's The Jomo Show.
All right, welcome back into the podcast, and let's continue. We got to talk a little bit. Let's move into the Big 12 a little bit. So we talked a lot about the SEC, and one of the games we talked about in the Alabama portion that we talked about was the Texas game, Texas, Alabama. So I want to get your thoughts on Texas. They had a big win against Baylor. They absolutely demolished them at Baylor, which is very impressive. 38-6. Quinn Ewers had a fantastic game, 293, a touchdown. He looked really good. Talk to me a little bit about what you saw from Texas kind of in that Alabama game, and if there's anybody on their schedule that might give them some trouble, or you think they might just take over the Big 12.
Yeah, I don't know. Quinn Ewers kid, he changed from last year. He's the real deal. I really like him. I think he threw for like 350 yards and
Yeah.
three touchdowns against Alabama's defense, that's at Alabama, which is just makes it way more impressive. Their offense is just it's consistent, and that's what you need, and that's what makes a good football team is consistency on the offensive side. And I don't there's I think they're just gonna walk through the rest of their schedule. Like
Okay.
I honestly see that they're gonna win out, but I also they're playing Kansas next week. It's a home game for them. I feel like that could be a close game, but it's home environment, so I think they're gonna win that. Oklahoma, that should be an interesting game. That should be an interesting game. Oklahoma has not been amazing this year, but I do think they're going to compete, and I think that's at Oklahoma, or is it?
Yeah, the Red River's normally like a neutral game. They kind of play that at a neutral site. So that'll be interesting there. Kind of to add on to what you were saying, I think really those are the two main games, and they're coming up. They're both Kansas next week, and then Oklahoma's the week after. One thing I'm nervous about is Texas looking ahead to Oklahoma and overlooking Kansas. And Kansas, they have a really good football team. They dismantled Illinois earlier this year, and I mean, it wasn't even close. It was 34-6, and they took out their starter. And then Illinois made it 34-23. But, I mean, Kansas is really good. Jaden Daniels, hold on. I don't know if it's something similar to
It's like
Jalen Daniels or something. Yeah, I mean, both the LSU quarterback and him have similar names, but they're both like tremendous athletes. And Kansas really just been really good this year, and I'm actually very excited for that game next week. The thing with Texas that's weird about them is like they're so talented, but they'll play down to their competition. They will. I mean, the Wyoming game, it was 10-10 going into the fourth quarter, and you're like, whoa, what's going on here? And then they turned it on and won 31-10. But I mean, I did say watch out for Wyoming. I liked Wyoming. They beat Texas Tech in double overtime, which was like a really good game. But I mean, looking at their schedule, like BYU might be a little tricky because they've been decent this year. They don't have the quarterback, so like you don't know, and it's a home game. But also like TCU, solid team, not crazy. We saw Colorado kind of have their way against them. I don't know. I mean, it's a very weird schedule. Kansas State's probably the only other one that I'd like because Will Howard's actually a good quarterback, and I like Kansas State. They lost a disappointing game to Missouri 2 weeks ago now. But I mean, looking at Texas, I do think they're clearly the best team in the Big 12. And if the Big 12 wants to participate in the playoff, they need Texas to just go all the way. It's just the truth. And I think they have one of the best D lines in football. They absolutely demolished Alabama's offensive line. They were all over Milroe. They made it really difficult for them. And I'm just overall very impressed with this Texas team. I mean, Shark has done an unbelievable job. He just has. Like, this team's unbelievable, and I'm very impressed with them.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan. I'm not a fan of Texas at all, but their offensive line,
Yeah.
is ridiculous. Their total yards against Alabama was like almost 500 yards,
Yeah.
and I mean the first downs. They had 23 first downs. Alabama had 18. They're just consistent. Like going back, like it's just the consistency. Their offensive line is great, and I don't know, man. I'm a little nervous about it, but I also the only big team they have is like Alabama, and like I mean the rest is like
Yeah.
their first game was Rice,
Mm-hmm.
and they played Alabama, Wyoming little bit, but I
Yeah.
knew they were going to win that game. Baylor, I mean it's at Baylor, probably a hard environment to play, especially that big of a game,
Yeah.
rivalry game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. I really like your take on Kansas. I do think Texas might be struggling there in terms of looking past and just looking at Oklahoma. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but Houston, man,
Yeah,
they
true.
pull off some things.
Yep.
They can play. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they lost to TCU. What was it, week 1? I think
Yep.
TCU is a good football team.
Yep.
TCU is a good football team, and I don't know. It's those 3 games are going to be the key for that whole entire schedule because after that, I mean, it's BYU, Kansas State, TCU could be a coin toss, Iowa State, and then
Yep.
Texas Tech. So, I mean, I can't see something going wrong, but I want something to go wrong. It's just I just can't see it right now. And that
Yeah.
Quinn kid, he's the guy. He's the
Yeah.
guy that they've been looking for, and they got him.
Yeah, Quinn Ewers definitely been sensational this year. Yeah, I think it's hard to just not pick Texas out of the Big 12. I mean, Oklahoma's looked solid at stages, but Gabriel hasn't gotten much better compared to last year. They had a weird game against Cincinnati yesterday, winning 20-6, and Oklahoma's had some games where they've dropped 80 points, and then they've had some games where it's just like a dud. And I felt like Cincinnati was a good place to really make a statement, and they didn't. So, I don't know. I think Texas can definitely just take that Big 12, and, it'll be up to them to rise to every occasion. And, a win's a win. Like the Big 12 season for them starts next week with Kansas. Like that's going to be a tough game, and we'll definitely see what's up. Baylor didn't have their starting quarterback, so you kind of knew they'd take care of business there. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see Texas. They got the win that they needed against Alabama, and we'll see if they can run the table. So that's some exciting stuff. All right, let's move into the Pac-12 a little bit. There was a lot of great Pac-12 action. I'll just say the scores, and we're going to kind of talk about the teams a little bit. The game people were circling and really interested in was Oregon, Colorado, and there was a lot of like trash talk everywhere back to back. Yeah, Oregon killed them 42-6. And yeah, it was a domination. I mean, no Travis Hunter, which is killer, but it kind of just shows you where Colorado is in the pack and how good the Pac-12 is. Like, they're just so stacked all around. Going through some other scores, you have the Oregon State Washington State game, which I was excited for. Washington State ended up winning 38-35. My thoughts on that, just Cam Ward, man, he is incredible. He had 250 yards. This is the first half, okay? He was 13 for 14, 250 yards, 3 touchdowns. He was sensational, like, to start the game. And I was just like, okay, Oregon State has no chance. This guy is on. And he was on. It was impressive. And then look at some of the other scores. Washington won 59-32 against Cal, and USC won 42-28 against Arizona State. So, and I also missed the Utah game. Utah won 14-7 against UCLA. So a lot of stacked teams in the Pac-12. All those games that I mentioned involved a ranked team, which is just incredible when looking at the Pac-12. So if you're looking at the Pac-12, and I'm telling you to only pick 3 teams out of the Pac-12, what 3 teams do you like the most?
See, like dude, USC.
Mm-hmm.
Williams is just a beast. He's gonna be a Heisman contender again, and he's just ridiculous. He's got a crazy team. Receivers are nuts, and I mean Lincoln Riley's doing the right things. Like he's a great coach. He's a great coach, and he's really set up a great program over there. Washington, I really like. And they put a pounding to Michigan State.
Yes.
Pounding, which was at Michigan State, and that's a hard game. That's a hard place to play at. And I mean, the third team, Oregon. I mean, Bo Nix.
Okay.
Bo Nix is that man. He's that guy. He's going to be a Heisman contender, if not the Heisman winner.
Yeah, I mean, like those are probably the 3 main teams right now, especially with what Oregon just put on to Colorado. Like that just sent a message to the whole world. I think that Oregon's for real. And the thing that's so cool about college football this year is like Oregon's the number 10 team in the country, but there's a real argument that they could play with Georgia and give them like a really, really good game, And, like that's the same with I think Utah with a healthy Cam Rising could give Georgia a really, really good game. I love Utah. I think Utah is unbelievable. And the fact that they're still undefeated without Cam Rising is incredible to me. 4-0, and they've won some tough, hard-nosed, physical games. Give Utah a ton of credit. They're back-to-back Pac-12 champions, and I think they're unbelievable. I like them a lot. If Cam Rising's back, they're going to be scary. And look at the rest of the teams. I mean, I talked about Washington a lot last week because I was at the game, and they're just incredible. Like, so good. Their receivers are unbelievable. And Michael Penix might be the best deep ball thrower in the game. And then I haven't even mentioned the best quarterback in college football and Caleb Williams. Like, that's what makes the Pac-12 so crazy.
I know. They really shot up this year. They really just shot up.
Yeah.
I mean, impressive.
It might be like a last dance kind of thing where they're all like, all right, it's time to go, last dance. But like it's been so much fun to watch with the Pac-12. So looking at some of the schedules, USC is going to Colorado next week, and I think we all know what's going to happen. USC is going to pummel them, which is tough for Colorado because like it's such a cool story with Dion bringing in all these people, but it's going to come to an end. It just is. But the game in 2 weeks that actually it's 3 weeks because there's a bye, but October 14th, Washington plays at home against Oregon, which is going to be crazy, like absolutely crazy. That's one of the games to circle. But the thing that I'm a little nervous about with USC, even though I like them a lot and I think they're very good, their defense has been up and down with the tackling. Their tackling issue has been a problem for them like almost the whole time. But USC, they have to play home against Utah, home against Washington, at Oregon, and at Notre Dame. They add that Notre Dame game. And it's like, geez, this schedule's just brutal, at the end. They started out playing nobodies, but the fact that they have to play at Notre Dame too is just crazy to me. So that makes it hard for me to see where USC is going. And I do think Notre Dame's defense impressed me, so they're going to keep it a good game. But I don't know. This Pac-12 is so hard to predict. If you had to predict like who's coming out, it's difficult, right?
It is. And, it was a little surprising that ASU, I'm a big fan of Drew Payne. I really like him. He's a great quarterback. I actually think he played pretty well against USC. They put up 30 points against them.
Yeah.
28 points. Like, that's for an unranked Arizona State. That's a little concerning for the USC defense.
Mm-hmm.
You should be concerned having them put up 28 points. I mean, yeah, their offense is ridiculous, but at that difference of a level, like they should blow them out of the water like they did against Nevada, putting up 66 points.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I had to rank the Pac-12 teams right now, I would probably put Washington as my 1, and then USC at 2, and then I'd put Oregon 3, but Utah's knocking right on that Oregon door. I mean, you got to put Oregon 3 right now because their questions are answered. Like, Bo Nix is playing at a sensational level, but we just haven't seen Cam Rising. And I'm telling you, when Cam Rising comes back, this Utah team is going to be scary, scary. I love them. Their defense is unbelievable, and I'm super excited just to see that level. And then you kind of get into the Washington States and the Oregon States and those teams that are going to give teams trouble, but it's hard to see them coming out on top. So, I mean, looking at it, I think that Washington-Oregon game might be the best game of the year because those two teams are so similar. There's going to be so many points scored in that game, and it's going to be like so much fun to watch. I think Bo Nix and Michael Penix, other than Caleb Williams, are playing out of their mind right now. So I'm really excited for that game. And if you had to pick one team, who would you pick to make it out of the Pac-12 right now?
Dude, I don't know. Washington's playing some really good football. USC, they're just always going to be a contender in that Pac-12 with Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley. They're just doing a great job over there. But man, I like Oregon a lot.
Okay.
Bo Nix has had that. He's a junior, isn't he? Right?
I think he's a senior. Senior, yeah.
SEC competition.
Yeah.
He knows what it is. He knows what it's like to be in those big games. I really, really like Oregon on top on there. Like, I know Washington, great football team. They put up 59 points
Yeah.
last week. That's ridiculous. I mean, Cal's a good team. Like they're a solid program. I mean, yeah, they were going to win no matter what, but 59 points, that's a lot of points. And
Yeah.
but I really like Oregon, especially overcoming Dion and everything like that. I think there's a little sleeper in that in Oregon over there. I think they're going to come out possibly on top. If not, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm excited. I'm pumped for that Pac-12. It's definitely going to be very interesting this year. It's a great way to kind of finish off the Pac-12 too. And, having these teams move, like it's going to be exciting next year. I'm pumped for that part. But I want to get into your playoff prediction. Okay. I had Jonah kind of make one. I made one before the year. And my playoff prediction is not going well. It's rough. I had Georgia 1, Michigan 2, Clemson 3, and LSU 4. So it's not going well. So talk to me about your prediction. Let's see if you can make a little bit of a better one than me.
It's already week 4, man. I don't know. There's really good teams, but there's a lot of questions about these big teams.
Yeah.
Georgia, I do have concerns. I think that they're going to lose one game, and it's going to beat Alabama in the SEC championship.
Okay.
But, dude, they're going to put Michigan in. And because their schedule's like the easiest schedule like they've ever had. And
well, do you think Penn State's going to beat them though, right?
yeah, where's that game at?
It's at Penn State. At Penn State, yeah.
Michigan's completely out of the playoff question if Penn State wins that game.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that.
Question. But you have to put Penn State in if they do.
Yep, 100%.
All right. I'm gonna do. Oh
man, it's tough. It's tough, man.
This is a crazy year.
It's a fun year. It's so much fun.
It is. I'm gonna go with. I hate to say it. I'm gonna go with Texas 1.
Okay, I like it.
Dude, I'm gonna go Texas 1, Georgia 2.
So Georgia, okay. I'm just trying to analyze it. So Georgia's 2 after they lose to Bama, or does Bama get that 2? Okay.
No, I think they. Well, it really depends because if Bama wins out,
yeah,
they make the playoffs.
Yeah.
But Georgia's still gonna only have one loss.
Yeah. The question will be if Georgia loses that is Georgia more attractive than a Pac-12 team? That's what it's going to be, because the Big Ten team will secure one spot. And then the question will be, do we add a second SEC team? Do we add a second Big Ten team? Or do we add the Pac-12 team that has maybe 1 or 2 losses that's gotten beaten up by a ton of good other Pac-12 teams? It's so tricky that way.
It's so hard because the committee is just I don't even know what they're doing because they put TCU in it last year.
Yep.
Horrible idea. Bama just destroys Kansas State to the team they lost to the week before. So it's impossible to guess, but I really think scratch it. Texas, Alabama,
all right,
Georgia. You got to throw Penn State in there.
Penn State in there. I like that prediction. I really don't mind it. I don't know about Bama. That's I think everybody talking because it's just the truth. But I like that. I think it's a solid prediction because it's going to be hard for a Pac-12 team to make it because it's so stacked over there, so stacked, and they're just going to beat each other up. Washington has to play both USC and Oregon and Utah. It just keeps going, and it's how are you supposed to only lose 2 games in the Pac-12 because it's such a stacked conference? So it's going to be very interesting, and I actually like that prediction. I think it's one of the better ones. So we'll see. I'm pumped, dude. I'm pumped.
Dude, it's gonna be interesting that Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State area.
Yeah,
and who really takes control of it? But I think Michigan, they're a great team, fantastic running back room. JJ, he's got that Joe Burrow swagger. He's got that
Mhm.
Joe Burrow swagger. And man, their defense, their secondary is so good. But I don't know. Penn State's got that. Penn State's got a little bit of an adrenaline rush towards Michigan, and it's at home. So I don't know. I think Penn State comes in close in the top 4 spot, right there behind Georgia. So I don't know. It's going to be a great. I'm so excited for it.
Yeah, I'm so pumped. I'm so pumped. Well, Connor, thank you so much for joining the show. This was a lot of fun. We really dove deep into like the whole landscape, and this was really cool. So thanks for joining the show, man. This was fun.
Dude, yeah, I appreciate you having me. It was good. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, no, I'm pumped for the college football season, and that's gonna wrap up this episode of Jake's Takes. Big thank you to Conor Benson, and we are gonna be back at you guys soon. I'll see you later. Peace.